The moment did not announce itself. It arrived quietly, hidden inside an ordinary day. The kind people forget as soon as it ends. Emily Carter sat in traffic on Route 9, watching red brake lights blur through the morning rain. Her radio played. Softly, a song she once loved but no longer noticed. She checked the clock and sighed. Another late morning. Another day that felt exactly like the last at home. Daniel had already left for work. He always left early now. A sticky note on the counter said, "Kids' lunches are in the fridge. Have a good day." It was kind, was thoughtful, was also painfully routine. Emily worked as a project coordinator at a mid-sized architecture firm. In New Jersey, she liked her job. It's predictable, but lately predictability felt heavy. It's like a coat she could not take off. When she reached the office, the receptionist waved her over. "We've got a new team member starting today." She said, "You'll be working with him on the Baxter project." Emily nodded, already opening her planner. She did not look up until she heard a calm voice say, "Hi, I'm Michael." Michael Harris stood there with a polite smile, holding a coffee he had not yet taken a sip from. He looked a little nervous, but not unsure. It was something steady about him, something grounded. Emily introduced herself. Their handshake was brief. Nothing unusual, nothing dramatic, and yet she felt it. It's a small shift. A quiet awareness. They spent the morning reviewing plans and timelines. Michael asked clear questions. He listened carefully. When Emily explained things, he paid attention, not just waiting for his turn to speak. That alone surprised her. At lunch, they ended up at the same table in the break room. The conversation stayed light. Where he was from, Toronto, why he moved, new opportunities, he said. He did not mention his divorce, but Emily sensed it anyway, in the way his voice lowered. When he talked about starting over, days passed quickly. The Baxter project moved fast, and so did their conversations. They worked well together? Too well. Emily found herself arriving early. Michael stayed late. They joked about deadlines, shared small frustrations, talked about favorite cities, music, old movies. At home, Emily noticed the contrast. Daniel listened, but only halfway. He nodded while checking emails. He answered questions with short replies. They moved around each other like polite strangers who shared a history, but not the present. Emily did not blame him. Life was busy, work was stressful, marriage settled into habits. She told herself this was normal, but then there was Michael. One afternoon, while reviewing blueprints, Emily mentioned her daughter's school play. Michael smiled and asked what role she had. Emily paused. No one at work had ever remembered details like that. "She's a tree," Emily said, laughing. "Best role in the play," Michael replied. Strong, quiet, always there. Something tightened in Emily's chest. The line between professional and personal did not break all at once. It faded slowly, like a chalk line washed away by rain. They began taking coffee breaks together. Not planned, just natural. They talked about dreams they once had and never followed. Michael spoke about wanting a home that felt warm again. Emily spoke about feeling invisible inside her own life. Neither of them said the word lonely. They did not need to. One evening, the office emptied faster than usual. A storm rolled in, darkening the sky. The building lights dimmed automatically. Emily looked up from her screen and realized she and Michael were alone. "You can head out," she said. "I'll finish this." Michael hesitated. "I can help." They worked in silence for a few minutes. The rain grew louder. The world outside felt far away. Michael leaned back in his chair. "Can I ask you something?" he said. Emily nodded. Double quotes. "Do you ever feel like you're living the life you planned, but not the one you wanted?" The question landed hard. Emily thought of her wedding day. It's her first apartment. The promises she made, believing love would always be enough. "Yes," she said softly. "More than I want to admit." Michael did not smile. He did not speak right. Away. He just nodded, as if her answer confirmed something he already knew. That was the moment. Not a touch, not a confession. It's two people seeing each other too clearly. Emily's phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. Running late. Can you handle dinner? She stared at the screen longer than necessary. When she looked up again, Michael was watching her, not with expectation, but with understanding. I should go, she said quickly. Of course, he replied. She packed her bag and left without looking back. Her heart raced the entire drive home. Guilt followed close behind. That night, Emily lay awake next to Daniel, listening to his breathing. She felt a distance she could not measure. Her thoughts returned to the office, to a quiet question asked under dim lights. The next day, she avoided Michael. She focused on work, Kai, on emails, on anything that kept her grounded, but avoidance did not erase what had already been felt by Friday. The tension between them was obvious, even without words. Michael finally spoke when they were alone. By the printer. I didn't mean to make things uncomfortable, he said. You didn't, Emily replied. And that was the truth. They stood there, caught between relief and restraint. After that, they tried to keep things normal, professional, safe. But something had changed. Every glance carried meaning. Every pause felt loaded. Emily began to notice the cracks in her marriage more clearly, the silence at dinner, the way Daniel talked about schedules instead of feelings. She wondered when they stopped choosing each other and started assuming. Michael, meanwhile, grew quieter. He left earlier, spoke less. But when their eyes met, the connection still burned. One afternoon, Emily received an email from Michael asking if she could review a file with him after hours. She stared at the screen, knowing she could say no. She typed erased, and typed again. Sure, that evening, the office felt different. Too quiet, too open. They reviewed the file quickly. There was no reason for her to stay, yet she did, I think. We should set boundaries, Michael said suddenly. Emily's heart sank. Even though she knew he was right. Yes, she agreed. We should. Neither of them moved. I don't want to be a mistake, Michael added. Emily swallowed. You're not. A silence stretched between them. The kind that speaks louder than words. Outside, the sun dipped below the buildings. The city lights flickered on. They did not touch. They did not confess love. But they stood there, close enough to feel the weight of what they were risking. Emily left soon after. She drove home with shaking hands. Knowing something had already begun that could not simply be undone, she told herself it was nothing, just emotions, just a moment. But deep down, she knew the truth. Something had started, and once started, it would demand a choice. Emily's world had shifted, though she pretended it hadn't. The weekend after that evening at the office, she went through her normal routine. Grocery shopping, laundry, helping the kids with homework. Daniel asked a few questions, and she answered automatically, mechanically. Inside, her thoughts kept returning to Michael, the way his voice had softened, the quiet understanding in his eyes. She tried to tell herself it was harmless, just a connection that felt intense because life had been dull for too long. But harmless didn't feel right. Monday arrived, and Emily found herself arriving at the office early, pretending to check her emails but secretly hoping Michael would be there. He was already reviewing a folder at his desk. He glanced up, surprised but not unhappy to see her. There was a tension neither could ignore. They spoke only about work at first, but the air between them was electric, charged with all the words. They weren't saying. Every glance lingered. Every smile lasted a little too long. During lunch, they walked to a quiet cafe near the office. It was small and cozy, the kind of place with soft lighting and jazz playing in the background. No one else seemed to notice them, though they both felt exposed. Michael ordered coffee, Emily a tea, and they sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally, Michael spoke, voice low. I shouldn't be here like this, said. Emily looked at him, understanding, feeling guilty and relieved at the same time. "Neither should I," she replied, and yet neither of them moved. They both felt at the pull, the connection, the unspoken longing. They talked then, quietly, about their lives, their regrets, the ways they had lost pieces of themselves along the way. Michael spoke about his divorce, the quiet loneliness he hadn't shared with anyone, and Emily listened, captivated. She shared pieces of herself, two small truths she hadn't admitted even to Daniel. And with each word, they built a space between them and the world where only they existed. Days passed, and they met in small ways: coffee in the morning, a quick chat by the printer, a shared laugh in the hallway. They stayed professional, careful, but the closeness continued to grow. Emily tried to maintain boundaries at home, but it became increasingly difficult. She felt as if her heart had divided into two, one half with Daniel, steady and familiar, the other half racing toward Michael, uncertain and alive. One late afternoon, Emily found herself alone with Michael again. The office was empty, the city lights outside creating a soft glow. They spoke about their lives and choices, but their conversation eventually slowed, replaced by the awareness of each other's presence. Emily felt a tremor in her chest, realizing how much she had longed for someone who simply listened, someone who made her feel seen. Michael reached out instinctively, not physically, but in his gaze, in the way he leaned slightly closer. She did not pull away. "I can't do this anymore," Emily said finally, breaking the quiet. Michael looked down as if expecting her to say that. "I know," he said softly. His voice was calm, but his eyes held a mixture of pain and relief. They stood there, knowing that their time together could not continue. Not because of lack of feeling, but because of everything else: responsibility, commitment, consequences. They had crossed an emotional line, and it was irreversible. Emily returned home that night, heavier than usual. Daniel asked about her day, and she smiled politely, hiding the turmoil inside. She realized she could not unfeel what had happened. Michael had stirred something in her that had been dormant for years: desire to be understood, to be truly seen. The following week, Michael avoided her, staying busy with files and meetings. Emily focused on her tasks, but every glance across the office reminded her of what had been lost. Every small smile he gave her felt like a reminder of an unspoken truth. Their connection lingered, even in absence. One evening, Emily found herself at the same cafe where they had first spoken privately. She had gone alone, needing to think, needing to feel clarity. She stared out the window at the city lights reflecting in the rain. Her mind replayed every moment with Michael, every conversation, every glance, every tiny spark. She realized that it had changed her permanently. She could not go back to being unaware of what she needed, what she longed for, what she wanted from life. Meanwhile, Michael struggled too. He wanted to do the right thing, to step away before feelings deepened further, but he could not erase the bond they shared. Every email, every glance, every shared joke reminded him of her presence in his life. He knew their connection had no clear ending, only consequences. Emily and Michael continued to see each other occasionally, professionally, carefully, but the intensity of what they had shared remained. They did not need to speak the words. They were written in their eyes, in their pauses, in the subtle gestures that carried more meaning than conversation ever could. Eventually, Emily made a decision. She could not let this continue indefinitely. She met Michael in the cafe one last time, the autumn leaves falling around the city streets. Their conversation was brief, controlled, careful. "This ends here," Emily said softly. Michael nodded. "I know," he replied. They did not hug, they did not kiss, they did not touch. But in that quiet acknowledgement, they both felt the depth of what they had shared. It had been intense, forbidden, transformative. And yet it could not become something permanent. After that meeting, Emily returned home with a strange mixture of relief and grief. Daniel was there, unaware of the emotional storm she had endured. She smiled, prepared dinner, helped the kids with homework. But she was changed. The version of herself who had been content with routine no longer existed. Something inside her had awakened a longing, a depth, a knowledge that life could surprise, hurt, and transform all at once. Weeks later, she thought about Michael and realized she did not regret meeting him. He had been a mirror showing her what she had been missing in herself and in her marriage. He had stirred feelings she could not ignore, and for that, she was grateful. Emily understood that life does not offer clear heroes or villains, only choices, consequences, and emotions that cannot be easily categorized. She learned that some connections exist not to last forever, but to teach, to awaken, to make someone see who they truly are. And so, T carried the memory of Michael with her quietly, privately, a secret flame that reminded her she was capable of feeling deeply, loving passionately, and living fully. Even when the world demanded ordinary. Their story had no perfect ending, no resolution. Only the truth that what had happened was real, unplanned, and impossible to forget. It changed them both forever, teaching them the fragile power of human connection and the impossible weight of choices made with the heart instead of reason. Emily would continue her life, still married, still loving her family, but the world felt larger now, more nuanced, and full of possibilities she had never dared to consider. And Michael, wherever he went, carried the same truth sometimes. The most meaningful stories are the ones that leave marks. Even if they are brief, fleeting, and never meant to last, the heart does not follow rules, does not care about timing, logic, or consequences. It only remembers what is real, what is felt, what awakens the deepest parts of our being. And for Emily and Michael, what they shared was never meant to happen. But it did, and it would remain a part of them forever.